Hi. Well, welcome, Teresa. Thank you for being with me today. And for those of you who don't know, it's been a while since I've recorded an interview, and I met Teresa a while ago because we were both guest speakers to an event from Vida Austin, and um, and it just resonated with me what Teresa was sharing. So I thought I would love to have her as a guest today. So thankfully, Teresa agreed. And so now we are here. Teresa, maybe you can unmute yourself. Yes, thank you. Okay, now before we start, maybe I can share my screen for a bit because you have given me some information about you that I would love to share. So here we are. Teresa Echaide. Is that correct?
Yes, close enough.
Yeah.
Echaide.
Echaide. Echaide. Okay, thank you. And you are located in California, aren't you?
Yes, in the Central Valley in California, like an hour away from the San Francisco Bay Area and close to the mountains of Yosemite.
Um,
Look
great.
at that
Well,
picture.
let me introduce you. Teresa. Teresa is a nature connection coach, an eco-spiritual guide, mentor, and teacher. She is a visual storyteller of nature, spirituality, culture, and ecology. Ecology, sorry. She provides loving guidance and support on people's spiritual journey of healing, transformation, and growth by sharing her earth based spiritual practices, resources, learnings, and experiences. She will empower and encourage people by creating trust and intimacy with each other and with nature. With nature as a guide and teacher, people will reawaken their soul's longing to reconnect to the natural world. And Teresa's mission is to inspire and support people in reconnecting with nature and nurturing their souls so they can see their brilliance and heal themselves and to help heal our earth. Teresa is passionate about exploring and being in nature. She's also an avid traveler and seeker of wisdom. She has studied and experienced ceremonies with many different indigenous wisdom traditions from the Toltec, Aztec, Mayan, Andean, and Lakota. She shares her travels and explorations in nature, spiritual journeys, and experiences and soul connection stories. She lives in California in the Central Valley, halfway between her place of birth in the majestic redwoods close to the Pacific Ocean and her beloved Yosemite. Okay, well, I think that's a beautiful job that you're doing, Teresa, as an eco-spiritual guide. It's so interesting. And you know that I'm very interested in water, but also in ley lines and in power places. And I know that you have a lot of knowledge, but also experience with power places in this world. So I would love to have a chat with you about that, but maybe you would like to share a bit about yourself before we do that.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited. And like our connection was like that instant soul connection from that moment. And yeah, the same, the water and the energies of the earth that we share the connection. So we're like soul sisters that I've met before. We're just reconnecting here now. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I appreciate you having me here so we can have these lovely conversations as we did for my podcast, which will come out later. But yes, about myself, just a little bit on the background. I was born here in California in the San Francisco Bay Area in a place called Redwood City. That's why the redwoods are in my DNA, my blood. And as a young kid, we my mother was from Mexico and my father was from Spain in the Basque Country. So at age 5, we moved to Spain to live there in a dairy farm in the Basque region in the north of Spain. Beautiful place, just nature, just we had the dairy farm and we had like the forest, the river. That's my connection with water. I always was trying to swim in the river and just enjoying all the different seasons that went through it. It was a really beautiful place, and the nature connection is what helped me be grounded. As a Taurus, I need that grounding and stability, and nature did that for me. And nature was my nurturing place as well. And actually, we had a dairy farm, so I was surrounded by cows. The Taurus energy is really,
Oh,
really rich,
yes.
vibrant in Spain, and everything about Spain is bulls. And I grew up in
Ah,
a small town where they had the running of the bulls in the streets coming up next month. So that's a lot of cow bull energy, and I loved it. And like they were my
yeah.
friends, and also the trees were my friends. I used to be climbing on the walnut trees, pick all kinds of nuts, chestnut trees, walnuts. We had all kinds of fruits given by nature. We didn't really have to plant these things. So that was like my childhood, and I spent there from age 5 to 16, so my formative years. I loved going to school. The education system in Spain is very different, and kind of like in Europe, you can resonate with. I love learning. I love especially geography and the social sciences, and learning about mountain ranges and countries. And I was an avid reader. I always had my like stories, like, and it was also like adventures. So that was my passion, reading my books and then getting out on my bike and going on my own adventures, to the
Yeah, yeah,
forest and whatever, by myself mostly, because my sister was quite younger and not the same kind of energy. So I had a lot of that, and that helped my imagination. I was always like I said, I will read or learn about different places and countries, and I always felt some kind of like attraction to like explore. So that was kind of the background, and then we came back to the United States and to where we were before, here in the Bay Area. And because my mother, like, wanted to be closer to her family and stuff like that. But then from there, a lot of things changed. First it was a cultural shock. I had to learn English, the American English, the proper way, I will say.
yeah,
And then unfortunately from there, my mother passed away when I was 19. It was a sudden tragic death. So that really turned my world upside down.
yes, I
And
can imagine.
yeah, and at that age, also not having the tools to deal with something like this, or like kind of the family fell apart and all these difficult things. And then
Yeah,
I got married young. I experienced a couple of miscarriages. Again, a lot of loss in not having the tools to how to express or how to heal from that.
yeah,
And then fast forward, I had my son. Wonderful miracle baby, I call him, because it was also a difficult pregnancy and all of that, and all the issues that came up with, like, those things, like 1 in a million, it happened to us.
yeah. Oh,
And,
wow. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, and then after a while, I was like, so that girl growing up in the countryside in Spain, she was buried somewhere, abandoned.
yeah,
And when I had my son, I was like, she was coming up, she was like, where are you, where are you,
yeah,
like, because
yeah,
my former husband, he wasn't a nature person and wouldn't do anything. And finally, like, when I was, I don't know, 30 something, I was like, there has to be more to life than this. And that's when everything kind of like unraveled. The divorce happened and stuff. And then I was like, okay, now I have my son, we can go start exploring. So
yeah,
it was just simple things in the park with the birds, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like coming back to life.
yeah,
The
beautiful.
true essence of who I am started coming back. And yeah, that's a lot more to share, as far as like, when I went to Yosemite, that was like another awakening. Like, I cried out of like one, frustration, because it's only like at that time only like 3 hours away from me, and I
Yeah,
had never been there. And out of the
yes,
beauty and pure like connection to spirit, really, when you walk in there and there's this tunnel view and you see all the majestic waterfalls, forest, and the big El Capitan, the rock formations, you're like, oh my gosh, this like
wow,
is that essence of nature, of that we're just a small piece in this big earth. And kind of like the feeling of when you see something beautiful like a cathedral or a temple, or that's the feeling that I got in yeah in
wow.
and that's why I call it it's a home to my soul, Yosemite. And there was an amazing quote in the shuttle in the park that it resonated with me. And he said, only the soul comprehends what the eyes see. And I was
That's
like, oh, that
beautiful.
was like,
Oh,
yes, can really, you have to be there to feel that.
To feel it. Exactly. Exactly. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So that's
very
a little bit
impressive.
of my childhood growing
Yeah,
up years and coming back here.
exactly. Well, that's such a beautiful story. And also, well, a heartfelt story. I mean, how you moved to Spain and then you moved back to the motherland where you lost your mother and
Mhm.
had your own experiences with motherhood and losing babies. And that's really a deep experience, isn't it? And I can imagine that if you have this theme in your life, that the connection with Mother Nature is even more important, isn't it? Because she's always there. And it's the roots, isn't it? It's giving you roots. So yeah, I can really imagine how it must have been to connect with nature and especially mountains. And well, you know that I have a strong connection with water, and I live near the sea. You mentioned that you live near the ocean as well. But
Mhm.
mountains, could you tell me about how it is to connect with mountains?
Yeah, and I also had a strong connection with water. In Spain, there was a river that I went to every time, and creeks and things like that. But also here, I'm actually living in a city called Riverbank because one of the major rivers that comes from the mountains goes through here.
Ah,
And it's no coincidence either. I manifested
yeah.
these 2 years ago because I go more into it. I'm very ceremonial. I like to do, things with intention. And I did
Yeah.
planted a little paper with my goals of finding a place to ground, like you mentioned, to finding a
Ah,
place to ground and start our home with my son because COVID kind of affected us that we were like kind of roaming around for a bit. And so I planted that with intention. I did ceremony and I buried it by the riverbank, by the river.
oh,
And then
wow.
2 years later, I manifested this home here and stuff like that. So things, take time and patience, but when you really put the effort and the ceremony and the intention into it, Mother Earth helps you. And that's how I find, this power places that when you talk about, I mean, or the mountains, everything that you feel a strong connection with
Yeah,
can be a power
exactly.
place for you.
Ah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the mountains for me that are significant here for me, especially are towards the west, towards the ocean, is the redwoods. They're mountains. They're filled with redwood trees where I was born. And the essence of the redwoods, I've had so many downloads and just creativity come to
really?
me at the redwoods when I'm hiking. And the redwoods is also mixed. So I'm like a strong mix of earth and water because the redwoods represent, they're not only trees, they're earth but they live by the ocean, and they most of the water that they receive is from the fog. So it's a lot of,
Ah,
they get the water from, the earth, but mostly from the fog that is, especially now in summertime, is really a lot of fog, and that's how they hydrate and take in their water. So that's one of the power places that I have. And the other place is Yosemite, like I mentioned, on my awakening journey after the divorce, and I just showed up there. I was like, I had it on my list and I seen pictures, but showing up there, it was like, oh,
oh,
welcome
wow. Yeah,
home. Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And the power of it to me is like that. It's healing because to me is coming home to my soul, to my true essence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I can be who I am, I am meant to be. I don't have to like do anything. I just have to be.
Yeah,
And that is such a like a magical just a magical energy that you feel when you feel so connected to everything else. And it's
exactly.
not about you anymore. It's really
Yeah,
about all of it. Is like there's different sit spots that I have in Yosemite that I go by this oak tree by a creek or the waterfall that you just like feel the energy, and that's why I go there to feed my soul because it gets so frazzled here in the urban areas as an empath, and
yeah,
and I go there to recharge my soul and my spirit.
yeah. Wow. I can
Yes.
definitely resonate with that because I had a kind of a spiritual, one of my first spiritual experiences was in Norway, sitting next to a lake, surrounded by mountains. So I can really resonate with your story and how you feel that it's so grounding and giving you spiritual experiences. Do you feel that you can connect with the spirit of the land, of the spirit of the mountain when you're there?
Oh yes, definitely. And part of me thinks like I think I was born at another time and era being
Yeah,
there, because that's so in Yosemite, for example, it is a really large space and park. And of course, all the visitors go to the valley and I just go there to get a couple of things, but then I go out far out into the wilderness because that the visitor centers have the same energy as the city. People are just going there to check off the box.
yeah,
But in the wilderness, and there's cars and there's these, but out there in the wilderness, you're just like the spirit of Yosemite and everything just comes, it's palpable. And John Muir, he was actually Scottish. He spent a lot of time in Yosemite and uncovered many things. And, like spent a lot of time there and connecting with the land. So I always think it's like, oh, how like pioneer would have been to see like these wilderness, like so like virgin without the roads or with anything like that.
yeah,
And there's a lot of places like that because it's not developed, like I said, the wilderness, and it feels really the spirit of it, of the people who've been there for millennia, taking care of the land and the animals. You feel. I've never had an encounter that is dangerous. How people sell the fear-based narrative. And
yeah,
it's like, there's bears. And it's like, okay, thank you. There's your space. Here's my space. I'm just visiting, thank you for allowing me to be here in your home. And, just coming with a good love energy. And you give and you receive. It's a reciprocal energy. And it's just, I feel the spirit because when I look at the mountains, I look, especially in the high altitude, and picture the lake that is a snow melt. I can see the snow on the top of the mountain. I can see the clouds. So all the water in
oh
all different
yes, oh
stages is around me too. So I feel the nurture of nature and,
yeah,
like a big
yeah,
hug of Mother
oh
Nature to
yes,
me.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, as if it's one embrace, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And I had, like I said, and those are the times when I had like downloads of creativity, like poems have come down to me or like ideas somehow, or like connecting dots because I'll be sitting there by the creek in the meadow and I'm just like looking at the trees, at the clouds, and then all of a sudden, like, boop, 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 all these things that like happen. It's like, oh my gosh, now it makes sense. Like the message received.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like receiving downloads, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
very many, and that's why I always travel in my backpack. There's always a pen and paper and notebook
yeah,
because those are when I receive the most like enlightening, ideas, creativity. Um, yeah, when my mind
exactly.
is just at peace and an easy way
Yeah,
of being without thinking about anything else on the mundane day-to-day life. I'm just being there. And then all of a sudden, like, like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
find that every time that when you stop the thinking and you're just sitting down, being, then the most big experiences come, spiritual
Yeah.
experiences, or just the feeling of being connected and being one with nature. Yeah,
Yes, definitely. And the
yeah.
other power place for me is the redwoods. And I've had a lot of experiences that have like really brought me back home to my essence as well. And I will write a book about all of this because I'm
Oh,
like, you inspire me with your books as well because
oh.
I kind of went back and forth. I'm like, should I? And I'm like, yeah, I want my story to be told is, amazing things and just want it to be put out there. But in the redwoods, I mean, I've had a lot of beautiful experiences with nature connection and indigenous ways of being. So I had to, I don't know, remember on my summit that I created, I read a poem called Redwood Girl, that's me. And it came when I was doing one hike by myself in the redwoods. I was there for hours and and
Wow.
most of the time by myself. And the redwoods are so tall and majestic, and like download of a poem, like they're my tree sisters. It's a whole family thing. And so I had that happen. And then prior and then so I didn't have the title really. And then after that, I had a ceremony in the redwoods. It was with a Peruvian shaman that I attended. And when you build a mesa, which is an offering to the earth from the things from the land over there, he told us to have a leaf of a tree and then blow into the leaf your name and your place of birth. So I said, Teresa from Redwood City. I'm like, oh my God, that's me, the Redwood girl. I'm the Redwood. I had like this
Oh,
whole download of, I'm like, that's the
wow.
poem, that's me, the Redwood girl, and all these experiences that I had with that. So that was, like I said, like these big connections were happening like, weeks apart. And then in the redwoods, it's like I say, it's a mountain as well. So going up the mountain, I met some native Lakota people, and they were holding ceremony there, sweat lodge.
Yeah.
So I went to sweat lodge for 6.5 years, weekly, sometimes
Wow.
twice a week, like up in the mountain and at nighttime. And sweat lodge, if you're not familiar with it, is just powerful ceremony, healing. And what it is, you actually go into the womb of the earth. That's what it represents. And I really resonate with Sweat Lodge because it's all about nature. We drum and sing and stuff like that, but there's no egos. It's just a circle, a broken
Yeah.
circle where we sing to the earth, and you're touching the ground and you feel all the elements, the fire with the stones coming hot, then you pour the water, creates the steam. All the elements are playing in this ceremony. So that's why I'm focused on teaching. I want to teach others or share, the power of being connected with the elements. Like you see here behind me too, you see the earth, you see the wings representing air, fire, the colors, the candle up there, just all these elements, which we are too, we're all made of these things. So to connect with that in a daily basis and in a ceremonial way, that was really, powerful and healing and community. And I learned a lot. And, sometimes you get visions when you are in there. And yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of wonderful, wonderful time. And to me, especially the drum, I'm not so much of a singer, but we were talking about instruments before. I'm a drummer. I love, because the drum is the beat of the earth. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
really kind of like, I don't know, your body kind of goes, see, like what we're both
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
It's like the drumming is like the beat of the earth that kind of gets you in this trance state where
Yeah.
you're just like completely open and connected to Mother Earth.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you make your own drum?
Yes, I did actually.
Yes.
I did. I have a couple. One of them I bought, and then I was like, I need to make my own. And actually, I went another power spot here in California. I love to Mount Shasta. I go to
Ah.
Mount Shasta as well, and I did meet a lady who makes drums. So it was just me and her making the drum right there, watching, with the view of the mountain, with in a ceremonial way, like things happen to be. I got to pick my crystal to put in it, the height that I was working with, and yeah, just all these powerful connections to the earth and how we can work with. And nature is our biggest teacher. That's kind of like why I want to share these experiences, because like I was mentioning to somebody, I can talk about the elements and all these things and make slides as much as I and share that, but you ultimately have to go out in nature and experience it yourself.
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
I love about your story, what you just mentioned about the sweat lodge or the sweat, that's how you
Sweat
call it,
lodge,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And you were talking about how the fire and the water would create steam. And I just realized that in that way, water is actually connecting all the people in that sweat lodge, isn't it? So I don't know. I just had a visual when you were talking about it. I could literally see how water is uniting the consciousness of people when you create steam. I think, wow, that must be some experience to be in there. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I believe that too. Kind of like on my talk with, Vera Austin, and I mentioned, as the clouds holding the consciousness, the human consciousness, not human and more than human, that we can access it at any time. So because we're made in her image, we're mostly water, and the water is like the steam, like you say, and that's when it got the hottest. When the steam rised and then it came down to
Yeah.
us, that's when it's the
Oh,
hottest.
wow.
But it's kind of like a blanket covering
Oh,
everybody, and you huddle, and then when it kind of clears up a little bit, you start the drumming and the singing and everything. But yeah, the so you're being held from the bottom, you're sitting on the earth, so that's Mother Earth, and then you have on top the water
yeah.
like a blanket. So you're being nurtured in this womb space.
Wow. It's so beautiful. And as if it's embracing you and also being in line with the heart chakra, isn't it? When
Hmm.
you talk about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you feel that nurturing, the love, so it opens you up. I mean, in sweat, everything is very intimate and private. People open up
Yeah.
and share, and
Yeah.
actually, another aspect of it, I think, is because it's in the dark, it's in complete darkness.
Oh,
So I think
yes.
that's a powerful thing for humans, because you to open up and
Yeah.
share.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching you.
Yeah.
You are in this space where you feel held by nature, and you can open up. And actually, I know a lot of people have started doing this sweat lodge with veterans from war, that helps them with their healing, to open
Really?
up and release. Yeah, yeah, it's been
Yeah.
taken to those places, because actually the aspect of being in nature, and like I said,
Yeah.
you is the aspect of the mother, and both look, earth and water are the feminine aspects
Yeah.
of the four elements.
Yeah.
And to be held in that space, a nurturing space, it helps you open up. And so, because you need to like feel it to heal it.
Exactly. Exactly. And you were just mentioning Mount Shasta.
Mhm.
How would you describe the energy of Mount Shasta? I mean, what is it like to be there?
It's totally different. It's more, because there's a lot of, I'm sure people out of the things I'm talking about are more, they have heard more about Mount Shasta than anything, because
Yeah.
there's supposedly a lot of ET activity, a lot of interesting cloud formations, to say the least, on top of the mountain as well, and is said to be the root chakra of the world. And also that inside Mount Shasta, there's the Lemuria city. So it has that connection to all of that. So yeah, the energy is very powerful. It's the mountain is an extinct volcano, is beautiful. You cannot drive all the way to the top, but to a certain spot where you just have an amazing. I've done ceremony there on full moons with my little bundle, Peruvian bundle that's called a mesa, or my stones and things like that. But it's just like you feel the energy of other beings there.
Yeah.
Also, like ascended masters, there's a place for that. And I also feel the energy of, like, fairies. And it's a
Yeah.
there's even a place called Fairy Falls. It's not
Wow.
like, this place, and all the people who go there, it's really palpable. The energy is like they are there. They come from all over the world to just feel that energy of otherworldly, I think I will
Yeah.
say it,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you feel that connection, and also the healing waters, because in the mountain up high, and then in the city, there's a part where the waters come out and they form the Sacramento River. But those are waters, just snowmelt, that just come from underneath the mountain. And you can pick that water, and it's free to pick it and drink it, and it's like pure water, untouched
Wow.
by man, that comes through there. And so yeah, there's a lot of power spots there. And even there's a area where the Native Americans have their sacred land as well over there. It's really palpable. Like I say, it's otherworldly. It is
Yeah.
definitely very connected to the spiritual world, and the people
Yeah.
who go there.
Yeah.
It's not a touristy thing at all.
Oh,
It's
really?
very Yeah, it's a very spiritual place. The people that you come across, they're there for a reason. They're not there to check off
Exactly.
a box.
Yeah. 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 Oh, wow. Well, what I noticed in your story is that you mentioned both the ET activity, but also the fairy energies. And I've never been to Mount Shasta, so all I know is what I hear or read about it. And you know that one of my interviews was with David Miller, who wrote about the Arcturians, and I have a strong connection with the Arcturians. And David Miller says that the Arcturians have buried. crystals all around the world, the earth. And where these crystals are, there are power places, spiritual places, and Mount Shasta is one of those Arcturian stargates, they call it. Like it's a place where the Arcturian activity is also very high. But what is so interesting for me is that I have discovered during the sessions that I've done with my friend B that many ETs, they are present on this planet in the shape of fairies. So what we see as fairies are actually the some extraterrestrials living on this earth, helping us with our planet and helping us with healing the earth and healing the trees, the waters, the rivers. And so that you mentioned that you also feel that fairy energy, that, yeah, that really resonates with me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting to know about the fairies too. Yeah, I believe that, and like I said, the places, and it's full of water too. There's so many waterfalls in that area.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, because there's like few rivers that come out of the mountain and waterfalls and lakes. There's a lot of water, and there's always snow at the top of the mountain. It hardly ever melts if it's a really hot year, maybe. But yeah, so there's a lot of waterfalls. I'm going there for the 4th of July. We have here a long weekend. So already planning like, I mean, in a day you can actually send like 10 waterfalls going through, like you just driving around is really, it's really nice. And like I say, it's not touristy at all. It's really outdoorsy
Yeah.
people who you will come here, and also people who have had experiences with ETs, because I've heard, you go to the local coffee shop and conversations are kind of like what we're having,
Yeah.
Nobody,
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody's on their phones checking Facebook or anything like that. So people are having conversations, and there's one big place, a crystal shop, that
Ah,
everything is purple, my color, and it's called Soul Connections. And yeah, and there's a lot of
wow.
information that I've heard there from, people who live there, work there, and I attended. I had a friend, she's no longer there, but she did crystal bowl singing ceremonies,
Ah, yes.
and the energy is really powerful. It's a vortex. And I remember after that
Yeah.
ceremony, well, I went into like, it felt like the underground of Mount Shasta, which it was all just crystals like quartz. And then I couldn't find my way back to my hotel.
Oh my God.
I got lost. I was like, oh my gosh, I've done these drives so many times. Not the
Yeah.
first time, but I was so like, out there that I ended up at a dead end by a train track. I'm like, where am I? Thank God
Yeah.
for the phone, because I was like, I made a left where I shouldn't,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the energy is really, really palpable, and um at nighttime is really dark, so you can see the skies, and it's just yeah, it's just
Yeah.
magical.
Wow. And I think you're so brave because you mentioned that you visit these places on your own. I think, wow, that's really adventurous.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
actually, a lot of people tell me that, but that's where I feel safest rather than in here in the
Yeah.
city. I get frazzled going, driving, and
Yeah.
somebody cuts me off, and that's more dangerous than being out there by myself. And
Yeah.
actually, I might be by myself as far as humans, but I am connected with spirit, and always coming and I always say to
Yeah.
myself, I'm coming to visit your home. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And even the other day, there was a hike and it's hot, and there's right now is rattlesnake season. So I was like,
Oh,
can you please stay in your space? I'm just coming shortly to visit this wonderful place, because they scare me. Rattlesnakes, it's dangerous. And I had
yeah.
experience when I was a kid of a snake wrapping on my leg when I was swimming. And so I'm like, oh wait. So thankfully, none of them came out. I only saw actually a skin of a snake. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
really?
time to shed, and but
Yeah.
yeah, and the encounters that I've had with like wildlife is always been safe from a distance. I know what to do. It just kind of animals and nature feel your energy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I started joking around, because I'm like, I am like St. Francis, like the animals actually come to me because I'm
Yeah.
sitting there. I've been sitting, Yosemite, for example. I had an experience last year. I was by the river, and there was a log, and there was an animal just come up here, like the ones that I forgot the name now, escaping my head. But but she was so comfortable with me being there. She was just doing her thing, and I'm doing my thing, you know. Same thing with the
Amazing.
birds or deer, and yes.
Yeah. Don't you also feel that there's always this synchronicity when you find things in nature or when you come across an animal that it tends to have a message for you? Do you feel that?
Oh yes, I've
Yeah.
been having initiations with animals, and on my journey of awakening with spider, and then actually yeah, like you mentioned, like I'll be in a space of, for example, like if I'm going through something difficult, and then one of my spirit animals is hummingbird, and I
Oh,
was sitting in my yard, and I was like in my head kind of like sad about something, and then hummingbird really like 5 inches in front of me, like hello, hello,
oh,
joy, you
wow.
know. And hummingbird represents joy and love, and you know my backyard has flowers, so they come, but they bring you back to the present, you know.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
kind of what I appreciate about, you know, being in nature, because you know, yeah, all these, you know, man-made things that boggled us down, and then you are there, and the animals is like, hey, be present. Here
Yeah.
we are to support you. We're a support team. And not only animals, but you mentioned the synchronicities is like, oh my gosh, amazing. In the redwood forest, I went there once, and actually in the redwood forest, there's a lot of water too. I will have to send you videos about this, but there's like a lot of springs that come out of the earth, and you can also
Ah,
get that water. And so there's a spring, and I had this was 2 years ago when I had a hard time. I was like, I had been laid off, so I was looking for a job. I had an interview, and and then I got the rejections. I was like, you know, like all down about it. So
yeah.
I went into the redwoods to this, you know, with my bundle and to do ceremony, or just to actually release that energy into the earth, because Mother Earth can compost. I said, compost this shit and just make beautiful things in nature. So I was there with the water, just kind of like, you know, putting the water on me. And then I kind of felt like, okay, that tree, I'm gonna go sit around that tree with my back into it and just ground. And I'm sitting there like, you know, and then out of the ground, there's this point of it was an amethyst that somebody had buried there, I guess. And it was, and I digged it out. I was like, oh my God. And you know, so I was like, thank you,
Beautiful.
thank you. It's like
That's so
the energy
beautiful.
healing of the amethyst, the purple being my color. And so
Oh,
that's what I
yes.
needed to like release that stress and the sadness, and see Mother Earth provided the medicine that I needed, you know?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Beautiful.
synchronicities, yeah, so there's so many of those, and that's why I often go into these power places and do my ceremony and just be connected with the mother and feel that. And once you're open like that, the synchronicities and the messages come, they just come like powerful through, like I said, through either through animals, through the trees, you hear things through crystals, whatever's coming from the earth, and just being open to all of it is amazing. And things that really you're like, then you look it up. I'm like, this doesn't happen, right? I mean, you're like, okay, but it happened to me, and I know it.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that you do know a lot about astrology. Do you also are aware of like the full moon or the new moon? Do you connect with the moon when you go out in nature or?
Yes, I do. I know. I actually connect more with the new moon. I was born a day after a solar eclipse, so in the new moon. So I feel my
Ah,
energy is more uplifted in the new moon. I like the
yeah,
darkness, but yeah, I always do ceremony on the new moons and full moons. I'm aware of it, and then also times the full moons is a challenging time because all that energy, all that light coming, you know, and
yeah.
that's sometimes why I feel my body's kind of more tired or other things like that. I also here in my yard, I will do moon water, put
Oh,
the
yes.
water, you know, yeah, charge the water with the energy of the new moon and my intentions. And then I will
Yeah,
make like sprays here with essential oils that I feel, okay, what is this new moon about, and how I feel the energies, and connect that to the plants and the oils that resonate with the energy of the new moon. So I make that, you know, items for my altar to always have that energy. And yes, I love it. And I resonate with the energies, as you know, and as part of the divine feminine is once I
yeah.
kind of awaken and open to that realization, I'm like, oh gosh, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Mhm.
how do you, because I know um I find it easy to feel the feminine energies on the earth, like water and earth itself. How do you see the masculine energies on earth? How do you recognize it?
Yeah, well, through the elements, you have the fire and the wind
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yes. Yeah.
and the air. And to me, the air and each element depicts a different part of our system as well. And to me, well, it depends. It could be personal, right? For a minute, I had
Yeah.
challenges with air, which is the mind. And I will like, oh my God, I don't like the windy days. I will like complain
Yeah.
about it or like kind of bring this energy into it or judgment into it. And
Yeah.
then it's like, but then once you kind of like quiet down and because I remember I went on to a journey on the other side of Yosemite and it was camping and it was really windy, a really windy place, and I couldn't set up my tent because everything was flying
Yeah.
everywhere. But also I've done this a million times. I know how to do it. And there was like the guides, two men, and I'm like, I'm not gonna ask for help either because I don't do that,
Yeah.
So my masculine was really like, like the
Yeah.
bull, really hard headed, and and they asked me, "Oh, we can help you." I'm like, okay, I didn't have to ask, but they offered, so I took it. But then it's like I remember being so flustered about it. I'm like, oh, I was like the wind. Oh my God, wouldn't let me, and then it makes me look like I'm weak or whatever. I had all these judgments on myself about not being able to set up the tent, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, and then I was like, I remember because there was a creek and a tree, and I'm like, what is it, wind? What is it, air? What's your message?
Yeah.
What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And it was like, breathe deeply. That's what I.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
was like, okay. And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes my masculine is out of balance, it's like
Yeah.
time to slow down to the more feminine breathing. And also the fire energy is kind of yeah, heat up, like even my body and everything. So within myself is knowing how to, like, I drink a lot of water or things that are cooling, like cucumber or lime or things like that on my water.
Oh yeah.
Don't eat spicy food because I know that doesn't go well with my fire element
Yeah.
and such. But when I'm in nature, I see that there's a balance. I don't see a division of masculine and feminine. I see
Oh
everything
yeah.
is both,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's on the human
Exactly.
side construct that, oh my God, we can go down rabbit holes of different things, and
Yeah.
that's exhausting. And that's not what I'm concerned or worried about. It's about
Yeah.
my being, how I feel in nature. Like I said, Mount Shasta is like some people may say is feminine. I see it both, like a balanced
Yeah.
place. These places
Yeah.
I see, I don't even think about that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, all I see is like the redwoods, like for example, the example of the poem I did about the redwoods is like my three sisters because I felt that feminine energy with them, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a place with it's all of it is creation.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And everything is connected, so nothing is just purely this or that. It's all connected. And
That yeah, that's the Western way of thinking, the mind of dividing masculine and feminine.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And do you also take people with you on tours or, well, not tours, but I can imagine that you do coaching, that you take people with you on these.
I haven't done that. I've done it with friends more than
Ah,
anything because I feel sometimes, well, I did retreats where I was a teacher at the retreat, not me personally holding the retreat. And because and I did, and in the redwoods, of course, one of them was meditation in the redwoods, and then another one was movement, a yoga class in the redwoods. So I've done that, and I saw that there was a lot, and it was for a women's retreat. So I saw that there was a lot of need for
yeah,
that nature connection, because when I guided the meditation in nature, a lot of them came up like, I haven't like touched a tree in so long or spoken to a tree in so long since I was a kid. Because I realized these women are like, they went to a retreat to because their kids are grown up or they're coming back to themselves, and they're like, I I put it off all these things, like me when I got married and then I got all these things. That
yeah,
adventurous girl was shelved somewhere until you come up. And then what I trying to do is tell my stories and to inspire others. And if it's women, mostly women, yeah, because like you say, it's like, you're so brave to do it. I'm like, we all are, it's like,
Yeah.
it's just because trust me, once you do it, you won't stop. It's like, you
Yeah.
just, just be smart about it, prepare yourself, and actually sometimes I found it, like when I go hiking, you have to really find a person that the energy resonates with.
Yeah.
Because I have found through so many hikes that people just want to talk, and I'm over here observing nature. I'm like, oh, look at the rental hog, and they're like, oh, I'm observing
Yeah.
nature. They're so busy talking that they don't enjoy it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a fine line there of who or, and I've led ceremonies, like I said, part of the sweat lodge, uh, in in community, in group. They seek me out, so that's part of what I've been doing. But that's kind of like in person, and also it's not it's a service. You are being of service. It's not a business. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
very different
Exactly.
thing. And the energy that I have about it is like, what I can provide is like, like I do, I'm gonna mention about, the cacao ceremony I did.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
that's something we can do in Zoom, because we can hold the energy. We don't have to be in person. You connect with the cacao and the ceremony. And that's something like a one-off. And if that starts to bring you out into a comfortable space where you can, like, okay, I want more. Like, I'm gonna also
Yeah.
do for the full moon. The full moon's coming up in June 21st and July 21st, because they're both in Capricorn.
Yeah.
And that's all about healing with the ancestors. And Cancer is, so Capricorn is the paternal side, and Cancer the maternal. So kind of work with those energies of healing, and just bringing ceremonies like that. That's doable. Other, like I say, other things I can tell you all day long about how to connect with the elements or how to do these, but actually, I'm gonna have to actually do it.
Yeah. 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 And
Yeah.
could you just, because it's time to wrap things up, and could you describe what you offer and how people can find you?
Yeah, let me just talk about a little bit of what I have done and what I put. And the best place to look for the things that I have done is on my website. I'm sure you'll put it here by teresaechaide.com, or my YouTube channel. And over there, I have I have all kinds of free resources, like my podcast, the Soul Connections Conversations, which are going to be featured next month. And then also have there posted the Venus Fiesta, the cacao ceremony that I did last month. So people can, and it's free. You can watch it. And if you connect with it, I have one coming up for the summer solstice. And
Ah, beautiful.
what's the next week, So, and I like to do those on those markings of the changing of the seasons, the solstice
Oh,
and
yeah.
the equinox. So I'll be offering those. So if you want to just take a look at that and get a feel and a taste for what it is, you can sign up. And then I also, I'm all about healing and working with energy. And one of the ways I can work more on Zoom is Reiki. I know you are a Reiki
Yeah.
healer as well. And that actually for me works better as a receiver, and as a giver, it works better on Zoom.
Yeah.
As an empath and an introvert, I love to receive it on Zoom because I'm in the comfort of my own space, my
Yeah.
home, my things. And then I don't have to get in a car and get,
Exactly.
discombobulated after
Yeah.
having such a powerful energy transmission. So I offer those
Yeah.
on Zoom. And then, like I said, you can go into my website and connect with me. And one of the other things that I love that I just finished, I did a summit the end of April, a powerful time when the Jupiter Uranus conjunction was going on. And this summit that I did, it was Unleash Your Brilliant Creativity, inspiring the creatrix within you. And that was really inspired because I wanted to bring and it was for women. I wanted bring women into this platform of interviewing them and getting to know them, what the journey was of awakening and what they have done. Kind of like you and I are talking, like, tell me, tell me how you've been, how you got here, and what you offer to the world. So other women who are listening can get inspired to do, like I said, you
Yeah.
inspire me to write my book. Even, and it doesn't have to be a business, just inspired to
Yes.
create,
Exactly.
because as mothers, we've created children, or some people may not, but you get to a point, it's like, okay, I still have all this energy. What can I create? And to
Yeah.
me, it's important, like, like I said, create my book to share my stories, and also
Yeah.
create all these experiences that I have in nature that I can bring to others to inspire them to get out there, go to Yosemite, go to Mount Shasta, even if you don't go, or even get to learn more about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was the summit that's still available there on my website now, and I'll be creating more because I really like these to bring together like wonderful people who are so inspiring, and you learn, and that's how I've learned of other people, like you and I through Veda, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I really like what I resonate with what this person is doing, and I want to connect. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of like the weaving of the community, the spider medicine
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
that. Yeah. And like I mentioned, I'm gonna have the summer solstice cacao ceremony. That's next Thursday, June 20th. It's on my website. And then I will do the full moon's healing journeys with our ancestors. And like I mentioned, so subscribe to my mailing list. You'll get that. I have more for the another aspect. Like I say, it's mostly ceremony and experiencing and sharing my experiences that kind of come up. Another one that I'm uh, feel strong about that I like to share with people is about the Mexican tradition of the Day of the Dead. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar with.
yes, I've heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very powerful to me. It was a really powerful, deep experience. I was able to 20 something years later heal the grief of my mom's passing in her homeland
Yeah.
with a lot of other stuff that came up about it. It was just beautiful. And it's just a beautiful way of celebrating life, actually, not so
Yeah.
much,
Exactly. Yeah.
and yeah, there's a lot about that. And that's November 1st and 2nd. So I will have something around that time as well.
Well, you're so inspiring, and I can really recommend people to visit your website and to join your ceremonies, because I really love the cacao ceremony that you did, and I enjoyed the summit that you did. So yeah, really inspirational. So I would really advise you, please write that book, because I think people would love your stories. Yeah, you have so
Oh,
many experiences with the earth and with all, yeah, these different cultures, and I think, yeah, you have a lot to share. So yeah, and
yeah.
so I will put your website in the link with this video, so people know where to find you. And I want to say thank you, because I'm really glad that you wanted to join me today to share your stories, and you really inspired me today to connect with nature more, because we often forget to do that. And it's so healing, and it's so charging our battery, but also getting back to the essence of who we are, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes, yes, definitely. And if you go to my website, that's what it says, just coming back to our souls, to our true essence. And, it doesn't have to be anything big. It start slowly, you can go to a park, to your garden, and just be like in my garden. I get so many downloads too because it's small, but I have all kinds of flowers, trees, birds, and I'm always and it sparks my curiosity too. It's like, ooh, why is that bird doing that? Or what kind of bird is that? I kind of they're my friends, they're my guides. They're like
yeah,
here and they're provide not only entertainment and just the music, especially when the sun is going down or I have my window open when it's time to wake up because the birds are singing,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a small ways of connecting. There's so much to connect with, and just like we mentioned in Venus, it's like the beauty of this world of nature. Just I'm bringing that joy into it. There's so much of the opposite going on, that
yeah,
is being shown, and
yeah,
I want us to, there's good people, there's good things out there. The nature
exactly.
is not, it's not ravaging us or whatever. Nature is
Yeah,
doing nature, and we are part of it. So it's like changing that mindset into being coming from love and appreciation for the earth, and and healing ourselves with nature.
exactly. Well, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today. And
Thank you.
yeah, I really appreciate that you want to be my guest. So I'm sure that we will see each other at other circumstances again, and hopefully other meetings like this. And so thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. You are really an inspiration as well. And yes, we will, water sisters that we are, we will definitely do more collaborations. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.